In today's video, we are going to talk about portion control. If restricting calories, cutting down on what you eat, getting a smaller plate, all of this, if it really works to cut some kilos from your weight. We at Harmony use a very powerful and potential tool to prevent, treat and reverse chronic diseases. In fact, you're not going to get this in a pharmacy, or can you get this as a prescription? What could it be? It's food. We all believe that what we eat is just a matter of preference. We grew up eating it, we saw on media what it is, and it's just something that we all like to choose from our preferences. But in a world of misinformation and a lot of marketing, the whole concept of personal choice is a little more complicated than that. Obesity is most often blamed on poor willpower and habits. Calorie controlling and restricted plates and smaller plates are really not what you need. They say eat less and exercise more. It really doesn't work. I can give you 2 plates of the exact same calories. This can be a plate of vegetables and this can be a burger. It's the same calories. But what you need to understand is that both these plates can do entirely different things to your body. So food is not just calories, food is information. The same plate can have entirely different effects on your metabolism, on your hormone system, on your immune system, on your gut, on your mood, on your emotions and so much more. We have a lot of clients coming in who tell us that for lunch, post lunch they had 5 almonds, 6 cashews, or how they had 200 grams of this, 300 grams of this. Do you think human beings have ever lived like this? It sounds super stressful. In fact, when did we start measuring and counting and restricting so much? In the evolution of human beings, we have always known when to stop eating. Our body naturally told us when to stop eating. That is called a food compass. Knowing what to eat and knowing when to stop eating came naturally to us. In a conventional diabetic management, what we see is that the patient is advised to take multiple mini meals. This in fact can be extremely harmful for your insulin performance. Every time you eat, your body is expected to produce a lot of insulin, and this can actually lead to something called insulin resistance and actually fatigue your pancreas. 100 years back, do you think a human or an animal accidentally binge eats on something? Have you ever heard somebody say, oh my god, I accidentally ate 8 apples by mistake? You don't hear that. So nature had a mechanism to automatically tell us when to stop eating. But we lost that. Most often we end up overeating and binge eating because the plate in front of us is compromised in quality. And most of the time we tend to control what we eat and we put a lot of restrictions on quantity because the quality is compromised. If the plate in front of you is quality wise perfect, all the micronutrients and macronutrients perfectly balanced, you really don't have to control how much you eat. I don't do that. I have never looked at my plate and said, okay, this is too much food, I can't eat. I just eat how much ever I can and I automatically know when to stop. You've probably heard people saying, I only eat 2 chapatis. I don't eat more than that. I just eat a cup of rice. So if the quality of the food is good and if you really know what goes on in a plate, which most people don't know. Ideally, it should have a lot of good carbohydrate, or I would change it to slow carbohydrate, which means something that doesn't put a lot of sugar inside your blood. Second, I would definitely recommend for it to have a good source of protein, be it vegetarian sources or non-vegetarian sources. It should have great amount of fat, because most of the time after you eat a plate of food, an hour later if you feel hungry or fatigued again, or if you feel the need to snack on something, it is probably because your plate of food did not have a lot of protein and fat. Take for an example, you have had white color dosa and chutney. If you look at this plate from a nutritional perspective, it is very poorly loaded with proteins and fat, which can actually lead to hunger and you wanting to grab something maybe an hour later. And this could lead to a lot of snacking. So what happens most of the time is that when you're eating a meal, you don't balance it properly, which leads to a snacking tendency maybe 2 hours later, which leads to constant snacking throughout the day. So instead of focusing on not snacking, focus more on what the real issue is, which is about balancing the plate. So like I said, it needs to have a good quality source of slow carbohydrates, a good quality protein source, good quality fat source. It needs to have plenty of colors, which nutritionally we call phytonutrients. It needs to have a lot of fiber. The importance of fiber is most of the time ignored, and people tend to avoid plant-based and vegetables in their diet because it's not that attractive. But fiber is integral part of your diet because the gut bacteria in your stomach fundamentally feeds on all the fiber, and human digestive system is in fact designed in a manner to accommodate a lot of fiber. So unfortunately, we all need to educate ourselves on how the plate should look and eventually develop healthy eating rather than having to diet every time your health goes wrong. So what do I eat in a day? Let's just briefly go over what I eat. On a normal regular day at home, I start my day with either a smoothie or a millet based upama. These are the two options that I have. So if it's a smoothie, it has no grains. It is loaded with a lot of nuts, it is a lot of phytonutrients, it is protein, it is fat, it is coconut oil, 3 or 4 fruits added. So it is basically loaded with all the nutrients that I just mentioned, and I have no restrictions on quantity. I have as much as I want. I end up having a glass and a half. At the same time, my dad ends up having more than 2 glasses. So that totally depends on how much you feel like having. There is no quantity restriction. For lunch, what I usually have is brown rice, as you have all seen, brown rice with a lot of curries, salads, thoran, all of that. There again, I try to take more of the vegetables and less of the rice. Dinner, I usually go for again no grain dinner, which usually comes with salads or soups, or it can be egg pizza, which is just egg with a lot of vegetables and cheese, or I have paneer salad, all of that. But most of the time, if you notice, I am not somebody who restricts myself from eating food. Like if you ask all my friends, I am somebody who never says no to food. If I go out and if I have to eat a piece of cake, I eat that. But 80% of what I eat is healthy, and I know what's supposed to go on a plate. And like I said, I never ask myself to stop eating. If I want to snack, something that I like to snack on is nuts, fruits, and maybe homemade chips. And once in a while, I also make some bhajis or banana fry at home, which is super healthy. There are so many things that are wrong with the world. The world is a mess. Take for example, climate change, poverty, there is so much violence in the world, there is depletion of water resources, there is social injustice, there is chronic diseases, there is obesity, there are so many things that are wrong. But there is actually one thing that we all do on a regular basis that can actually make a difference. We all eat. A study done on prisoners showed that violent crimes in prisons and prisoners goes down by 50%, in fact 56%, if fed them a healthy diet, and 80% if you give them a multivitamin. So in short, restricting what you eat or making sure the portion sizes are small is a horrible way to live. You need to look at your plate and feel happy and satisfied, and it needs to connect with you. So instead of trying to restrict what you eat, instead of making your plate smaller, instead of getting smaller spoons, try to learn what actually goes into the plate and have it with your mind happy, and make sure it fills both your stomach and your emotions.